All right, here we are on day 22. We're going to be talking about obedience as a young boy. Luke 2, chapter 2, 41 through 52 provides our only information about the childhood of Jesus, a snapshot of a 12-year-old Messiah from which we can glean several insights about the family of Jesus. What does this tell us about Mary and Joseph? What does this story tell us about Jesus? How would you describe the Jesus' response to his parents in Luke 2, chapter 251? This passage is the last time the Bible mentions Joseph. Many scholars believe that Jesus may have died when Jesus was young, perhaps shortly after the encounter in the temple. If this is true, how might this have affected Jesus? How might something like this affected you in your life? I know my father died uh, when I was 15 on a golf course. He dropped dead right there. And I can remember the changes it made because suddenly there was one parent that wasn't around anymore. And it was the one you consider to be the leader in your home. So I'm sure this had an effect on Jesus if Joseph actually died at this time. But how might his life have changed? Hebrews 5:8 tells us that although Jesus, was a son, he learned obedience from what he suffered. Just Jesus suffered not only on the cross, but he lived life in perfect obedience to his Father. Throughout his life, suffering is a part of life. Fortunately, Hebrews 2:18 tells us that because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he was able to help those who are being tempted. And how does temptation bring suffering? And that's true. Sometimes the greatest people you can speak to is those who are going through something that you already went through, something that you made your way through. What does Hebrew 11:25 tell us about sin? What happens in the short term when someone chooses to say no to the passing pleasures of sin? Hebrews 2:18. What is the long-term result? Hebrews 12:2. These are scriptures that you read, you study, you look at, you see things that went through Jesus' life and his humanity. And it gives us a snapshot of what we might go through. It also, many times, the scriptures will give you an answer for yourself to help understand what you're going through. With these verses in mind, write down what you think that it means that Jesus learned obedience by what he suffered. When you went through something in your own life, um, you can look back later on and you can say, wow, I remember when that happened. I remember when that took place in my life. And you see somebody going through something, and you can say, you know what? I can sympathize with that person. I can maybe understand a little bit about what they're going through. I can help love them through this situation. Uh, it's hard when you go through things. And yes, he was the Messiah, but he was also a 12-year-old boy, and he was getting ready. I always think of his whole life as that he was going to the cross for us. But he was also a human being because as a human being in his humanity, he gave us an example of what might happen to us. What do you think it means that Jesus learned obedience? We're talking about, we go back and read Hebrews chapter 5. There are two ways to learn obedience. You can do it through disobedience and sin. And trust me, when you know something's wrong and you do it anyway, you begin to realize, I wish that I had never done that. Many people today that we run into that are drug addicts or alcoholics wish they had never started, but they don't know how to get back to the starting point before. When you go through something, when you do something, it's there. You've done it. But what can help get you out of that? The Bible can. God can. If you're willing to listen to Him and go back to something, all right? There, obedience. How do the lessons differ? Is it different about whether through when you learn through obedience and disobedience? There's two different ways to learn. If you were obedient in life, if you always listened, obedience if you've always done the right thing, and suddenly there's an opportunity. I could just do this once and get away with it. I've always been a good boy or a good girl. And, we always have to think of consequences in life. Are we going to follow the rules? Are we always going to obey? Are we going to be just this one time and get away with it? Trust me, when you do that and you look back at yourself, you realize that doing the right thing was the right idea after all. Well, guys, this is the end of day 22. Trying to get all these back up. Not sure what took them down, but we're going to get them back up so we can continue to study. God bless you guys. You have a blessed day.